The breakfast crowd had barely settled into the bright little roadside restaurant when a tired single father made a decision that would cost him nearly everything he had left. The homeless man standing quietly near the entrance looked invisible to everyone else. Customers turned their heads away, employees whispered, and the manager was already walking over with the familiar expression that meant trouble. But before anyone could force the old man back into the scorching morning sun, the young waiter stepped forward, placed his own meal in the stranger's trembling hands, and softly refused the money the man tried to offer. Less than 24 hours later, luxury vehicles surrounded the restaurant, executives rushed through the doors, and every person inside froze when they discovered that the homeless man owned the entire restaurant chain. Before we continue, if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Keep your money, heart single dad. Your support helps bring more heartfelt stories to people around the world. Morning sunlight poured through the restaurant's large windows, painting golden patterns across the polished wooden tables. It was one of those ordinary mornings that looked beautiful from the outside but carried invisible burdens for the people living through it. Every customer had somewhere to be. Every server hurried from table to table with forced smiles. Every coffee cup carried another conversation. Yet among all those busy faces, only one person seemed to notice how fragile life could become overnight. That waiter was 29-year-old Rowan Mercer, a widowed single father raising his 7-year-old daughter, Hazel. Life had changed without warning 2 years earlier when an unexpected illness took his wife within weeks. The hospital bills swallowed every dollar they had saved, forcing Rowan to sell their small home and move into a tiny rented apartment on the edge of town. Every sunrise became another calculation between rent, groceries, school supplies, electricity, and the growing cost of simply staying alive. Despite the constant pressure, Rowan refused to let hardship steal his kindness. His daughter had become the center of his universe. Every morning before school, he braided her hair with clumsy fingers, packed simple lunches with handwritten notes tucked inside, and promised her that better days would come. Hazel believed every word because her father never allowed her to see the fear that lived behind his gentle smile. The restaurant where Rowan worked belonged to a successful regional chain known for its family atmosphere. Customers loved the fresh food and friendly service, but the employees knew another reality. Management demanded perfection. Every mistake meant criticism. Every complaint threatened someone's schedule. Rowan accepted every extra shift because saying no simply wasn't an option anymore. That particular morning began with unexpected chaos. One waitress called in sick. A cook arrived late because his car had broken down. The dining room filled faster than usual, leaving Rowan balancing trays, refilling coffee, calming impatient guests, and apologizing for delays that weren't his fault. His feet ached before 10 o'clock, yet he never stopped smiling. Then the restaurant door slowly opened. An elderly man stepped inside wearing worn-out clothes faded by years beneath the sun. His shoes were cracked, his beard untrimmed, and his weathered hands trembled slightly as he removed an old cap from his head. He carried himself with quiet dignity despite looking as though he hadn't eaten properly in days. The conversations around the dining room changed almost instantly. Some customers looked uncomfortable. Others frowned with silent judgment. A mother gently pulled her child closer. The atmosphere shifted from welcoming to suspicious within seconds. The restaurant manager, Victor Hale, immediately marched toward the entrance. His expression carried the cold certainty of someone who had already decided the old man's worth before hearing a single word. The elderly stranger politely explained that he wasn't asking for charity. He only hoped to buy a simple breakfast using the few crumpled bills he had left. His voice remained calm, but exhaustion lingered beneath every sentence. Victor barely listened. The manager glanced at the old clothes, the dusty shoes, and the tired face before deciding the appearance alone was enough reason to remove him. Several nearby customers lowered their eyes, pretending not to notice. From across the dining room, Rowan watched everything happen. Without thinking about consequences, he quietly placed the tray he had been carrying onto a nearby table and walked toward the entrance. Reaching into his apron, he pulled out the money he had planned to use for his own lunch later that afternoon. It wasn't much, but it represented the only cash he had until payday. He gently placed the bills back into the elderly man's hands and insisted they belonged to him. Then Rowan asked the kitchen to prepare the biggest breakfast on the menu and personally paid for every item himself. The old man tried several times to return the money. Rowan smiled warmly and softly insisted, "Keep your money." The words were simple. There was no audience he hoped to impress. No cameras. No social media. No expectation of reward. Only genuine compassion from someone who understood what it felt like to wonder where the next meal would come from. The manager's face turned bright red with anger. Victor accused Rowan of slowing service, embarrassing the restaurant, and encouraging people to take advantage of employees. In front of customers and co-workers alike, Rowan received a harsh warning. Another incident like this, Victor promised, could cost him his job. Rowan accepted every word without defending himself. He simply returned to work. The elderly man quietly finished his breakfast while watching Rowan move tirelessly between tables. Every customer received the same patient smile regardless of how difficult they became. Rowan never looked toward the stranger again because kindness, in his heart, wasn't something that required recognition. When the old man finally stood to leave, he paused near the entrance and looked back one last time. His eyes rested on Rowan for only a moment before he disappeared into the bright morning sunlight. By evening, Rowan had nearly forgotten the encounter. He walked home carrying discounted leftovers from work, grateful they would become dinner for Hazel. They spent the evening helping with homework, laughing over silly drawings, and reading one chapter from her favorite adventure book before bedtime. After she fell asleep, Rowan quietly sat beside the apartment window studying unpaid bills spread across the tiny kitchen table. His final paycheck had barely covered rent. School expenses waited next week. Hazel needed new shoes. The electricity bill remained unpaid. For a brief moment, doubt crept into his heart. Perhaps he had been irresponsible giving away money he couldn't spare. Then he remembered the relief on the old man's face after receiving that warm breakfast. The doubt disappeared. Some sacrifices, he believed, were worth making. As dawn arrived the following morning, Rowan kissed Hazel goodbye before leaving for another shift. He expected another ordinary day filled with coffee refills, breakfast orders, and endless rushing between tables. Instead, the restaurant parking lot looked completely different. Several sleek black vehicles stood outside. Men and women in tailored business suits walked briskly through the entrance carrying folders and tablets. Employees gathered near the front windows whispering nervously. Victor paced anxiously, adjusting his tie every few seconds. No one understood what was happening. Rowan quietly tied on his apron and stepped inside just as the restaurant doors opened once more. The same elderly man entered. Except this time, he no longer looked forgotten. Every executive immediately stood. The regional directors straightened their jackets. Even Victor lowered his head respectfully. The homeless stranger walked with the same calm dignity as before, but now everyone understood who he truly was. His name was Alistair Rowan Ford. He was the founder and sole owner of every restaurant in the chain. And the reason he had dressed like a homeless man was about to change every life inside that building.